everybody. It is Friday, April, is it the 16th or the 17th? 17th. It is April 17th, 2020. We are still in quarantine. We are all still surviving. We are here in our dining room, making magic happen, living the dream. We are doing the letter Y today. We are almost through our alphabet. This is insane. This is amazing. I can't believe that, basically a month ago, we started doing this, and it didn't feel like we would ever come to the end, but here we are, almost at the end. But we don't want it to be the end, so we are going to just keep on going. We're going to keep on lettering every day. We're going to, think of some new ways to, share our knowledge of design and lettering and letters and typography with you guys. So stay tuned past these lessons. After Z, we're going to be doing some flourishes, some nice decorative ornament, which I know a lot of you have asked about. We're going to talk about spacing and layouts and other ways that you can make your drawings, more sort of finished and professional looking and a little bit more harmonious and balanced and everything. We are so glad to have you guys with us today. It has been a pleasure having you guys all part of these classes. We are just, we're just making it through. Little achievements every day, little victories. And today we have a big victory in our book. I don't know if you guys have understood our deep love for gluten-free baked goods, but if you haven't caught on by now, it's real. It is a real deep love. Morgan cannot have gluten, but she's always been a baker. And so some folks who have a business here in Colorado Springs called Sweet Elizabeth's Organics, they sent us this amazing care package. They also have a location in Florida. But let me show you guys what they sent to us. They sent us these bags of gluten-free mix. Look at this. Brownie mix, bread flour mix, vanilla cake mix, kid on a scooter mix. That one I don't recommend without a helmet. But yeah, look at that. How sweet is that? They're just another small business who does amazing stuff. We are addicted to their cinnamon buns and their donuts. But they're really trying to make things work now that they've closed their bakeries, but now they're shipping these packets. So if you follow them, Sweet Elizabeth's Organics, great people, great family-owned business, amazing stuff. Every time we go to on vacation, if we're in LA or San Francisco or New York or something, we're gonna always check out the gluten-free bakery. And I'm serious, these Sweet Elizabeth's blows them out of the water. So give those guys a try. We are going to, oh my gosh, where's my iPad? There it is. We had a little Zooming yesterday, so my stuff here is a little out of organization. But we are going to be doing the letter Y today. I'm very excited about it. I hope you guys are too. I hope you guys have been getting a lot out of this class. We have just been really enjoying doing all the drawing and staying in touch with you guys. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Hit us up in the comments. Morgan will do her best to communicate with you guys because I can't see the screen when we flip things around. But we're going to flip things around in 1 second. Morgan is just feeding the baby, one of the babies, Roland. I just put Frankie down for a nap, so I think we're good in that department for a little bit. I have up here on our screen the little exercise we did yesterday with the letter X. And this was just an exercise using some sans serif, some serif, some monoweight sans serif, some sans serif with contrast. The has a little bit of contrast on there. And just kind of alternating a baseline and filling up the space with some different types of lettering styles. So today I hope to have a little bit extra time. We'll see. If we do have some more time, we'll do some more layouts at the end. But if we don't, we can certainly do some more layouts, whenever, because we're not going anywhere for the time being. So if you guys have any like sayings or something you've always wanted to, work on as a layout, let us know. Send us a DM, put it in the comments so that we know what's on your mind, so that we can letter it together and make that part of the class. So let's try to get started here. I'm going to see if I can do this by myself without Morgan, because I don't know if she's ready to go. Morgan, are you almost finished? That sounded like a no. All right. Hold on. Let me turn this around. When the baby needs to eat. Baby needs to eat. And these babies are growing. They're 4 months old now. They'll be 5 months at the end of April. Just go crazy. All right. Here we are. All right. So yesterday we had some things cut off a little bit. I don't want to cut things off again. So let's try to make that as square as possible, if it is possible. All right, cool. I think that's probably good for now. Again, if you guys have any questions, type them out and we will try to get to them when we flip the computer around. But I'm gonna start lettering, so that we might be able to have some extra time at the end. All right. So, if you guys have this lined paper at home, this is the paper that we have available on our website as a free download. So you can follow along with that paper, or if you have an iPad or just paper and pencil or paper and pen, that's great too. We are going to be starting with our mono-weight sans serif. Mono-weight meaning one weight, so one weight, one thickness of your stroke, and sans serif meaning sans without serif. So let's get started. So we're going to do a capital Y, and we're going to start by making our first stroke down from the cap line all the way down to the baseline. And basically it's kind of like this series of strokes that we join together. So I'm just going to kind of show you guys this sort of a parallelogram that we start with. And then we want to sort of create another parallelogram up there. And we're going to make a nice little trunk here. Now this looks like my trunk is slightly wider than those top strokes. So I would like to try to thicken that out during this thickening process. I'm also kind of looking at this axis right now. So my axis is kind of here, but I'll notice that my axis for my stem is kind of like here. So they're a little bit disjointed here. There's like a little disjointedness. So in this process of after you draw that outline and kind of filling it in, this is the opportunity to kind of assess what you've done and kind of correct what you're doing. So what I might try to do is actually add a little bit of thickness here and a little bit of thickness here, trying to balance out that center axis point while also thickening those arms. So that looks a little bit better to me, but this angle looks a little bit more severe than this one. This one's a little bit of a softer angle. So let's try doing that again. And last time, the first time we drew this, we kind of came down to here almost like just slightly below the mean line. Let's go a little bit lower this time. So let's draw our initial stroke going down. And then we want to try to keep that angle just sort of flipped on that side with our nice sturdy stem somewhere in the center. Trying to be aware, since it is a mono-weight letter form to keep all of those strokes even. But it can be tricky, you know, trying to balance the symmetry, the weight, the balance of a letter form. It is, you know, not as easy as you think it would be. So that's a nice, strong, sturdy Y. I almost like that, you know, this junction to sit a little bit lower than up here. But, you know, with this, you know, line guide, you have all the space to practice these Ys. So you go ahead and fill up a whole line if you want. You know, I think that it would be really good practice, and I would definitely encourage practicing these letter forms as much as possible after the class, so everything's kind of fresh in your mind. But there we have our capital Y. In the capital Y sans serif style, we definitely try to keep it this sort of symmetrical, you know, capital shape. I know that there are some, you know, capital Ys that, but for the sake of trying to vary the instruction for today, I'm just going to show you how to do this style for that monoweight style, because we are going to be getting to the, you know, more loopy, sort of almost like a giant lowercase y with our serif style and our script style. So just to give you guys a little bit of variation, this is how we do it with the sort of just tall, strong, symmetrical style. With our monoweight lowercase y, however, we are going to get into that more familiar Y shape, and we're going to basically, you know, start almost as if we were drawing our lowercase v or our lowercase w. So we start with that stroke, and then up here we're going to start and we're going to kind of come down, sweep across, and give ourselves that little terminal at the end. And ideally you kind of want that terminal to sort of sit sort of in line with this left hand sidebar. You know, it's not against the law to kind of poke out a little bit further beyond. That's definitely, you know, if it looks okay to you, that is what's important. But if you're really trying to perfect this letter Y, you know, maybe try fitting that sidebar, that terminal within the sidebar. So let's try drawing that again. And one way that we can try to work on that is by starting with our stroke here. And, you know, I started with this kind of wide angle. You know, maybe if we turn our angle a little bit more narrowly, that sort of does it. I feel like that's probably pretty conservative. But now we kind of have this like really sort of narrow Y, which I don't, I mean, yes, it is a lowercase y, it's fine. I kind of think it's like maybe a little bit too narrow. So I want to try to do a little bit different. I'm going to make this stroke right here maybe a little bit more severe, so it kind of comes at more like an angle like that. So let's try that. My brush stroke. Hello, come in. Oh, sorry. Hi, everybody. All right. I swear I know what I'm doing. All right. So let's give ourselves like a more severe starting point here. All right, that should be good. And then again, we're going to try to aim to sort of really, you know, create that crossbar right there where you have your, ooh, there. What's going on? So right where you have these, you know, right at this angle, so that makes a very sharp angle right through that edge. So let's try that again. So we're going to start with our black. And because we have a mono-weight sans serif style. We're not going to really be adding too many teardrop terminals or anything like that. That's kind of reserved for more of like the serif style or the script style. But that Y seems a little bit more, it just seems a little bit more friendly to me. It checks the boxes of, filling that bottom terminal, the descender within those sidebars. So that looks good. I feel like the weights are, it's not perfectly balanced, but it's not bad. And I think that just like the balance of these angles just feels a little bit better to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and say like that is probably my my winner there. Although these are fine too. I just think I prefer that wider stance with that lowercase y. And again, we're trying to really match the thickness of the other lowercase letters that you're using. So, you want it to be similar width as your lowercase e's and o's and d's and things like that. So you want to try to keep a relatively similar weight to similar width lowercase letters. Don't know why that was so hard for me to say, but got it out. All right. Now let's add some contrast to our sans serif style. And contrast, again, people, is this little cheat sheet. So we're going to have our up and down strokes will be thick. Our side to side strokes will be thin. Our up strokes to the right will be thin. And our down strokes to the right will be thick. Our letter Y obeys these rules, unlike some other letters, but we are going to enact these rules in our sans serif styles that have a little bit of contrast. So let's get started with our capital Y. Now the capital Y is a little bit funny because it's not like the capital A or something where it's like really obvious that this one is you have this nice long stroke to the top and this nice long stroke to the bottom. You have this kind of like jilted sort of crook. You have like a little crick in the neck. Is that the right way? Crook in the neck. So you kind of start as if you were doing your mono-weight style, and you just kind of like all of a sudden you're like, oh, my road is now totally just like going this way. It's just like a really bendy stroke there. And from that bendy stroke, we are going to draw our other little arm here that just has a little bit, a little bit thinner of a stroke, because this guy is going to be our thin stroke that matches that rule. This guy obviously is this rule, and this obviously is this guy. And it doesn't have any cross bars, so there's no need for this thing. But that would be our capital letter Y with some contrast. And again, if we have our lowercase letter, we're going to start drawing it as if we were drawing our lowercase v or our lowercase w, where we have some contrast. Actually, I'm going to make it a little bit wider, because before I was saying, no, I like it a little bit wider. All right, so start with that. Actually, yes. All right, so here's the funny thing here. All right, you can make this, you see how that's kind of flat on the bottom? You can make that flat, or if you want, you can kind of round it if you like. You have all this paper in front of you. You can go to town and do what you please. But for this first demonstration, I'm going to do a flat bottomed Y, lowercase y. And so I'm going to kind of come down here, and I'm sort of abiding by those rules where my strokes that go up to the right here are thinner than my downstrokes to the right, which are thicker. But here you have this kind of disjointed part where your left-hand side, it almost looks like it's sticking out a little bit. It's almost like, you know, you have this like, you know, shape of this walking along and it's got like hit in the back with a window pane or something, a piece of glass just went like, falling out of the sky and just stabbed him in the back. So that's a little bit funny. So that's why sometimes you do a little bit of a rounded shape, something like that. And then you can connect that to your stem there. You also, if you wanted to make a more narrow Y, you could make a Y that sort of operates like this. So we touch the baseline with that left hand stroke, but we don't touch it with that right hand stroke, and then we come down and finish it off like that. So that is another option as well. So look at those different kind of Ys you could make with that contrast. They're all very different, but they're all Ys, aren't they? And because we are doing a sans serif style, we're not going to add a serif or a teardrop terminal or any kind of fancy terminal onto the end. We're going to kind of keep that a little bit consistent. So there we have our Ys with some contrast. All right, so let's move on to the next portion of our program, which is the serif program. Ding, 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 ding. So basically what we're going to be doing, we're going to be making a Y in the style of our mono-weight and our contrasty sans serif. I don't know if contrasty is the right word for that, but that's the word I'm using. So if you've been following this class, you'll know that I really like to draw my serifs first as part of that initial stroke. And it's funny because I don't usually draw that construction, almost like, how I was showing, this box and then there's this box up, up above. I kind of just stick with the same brush stroke. I don't lift my pen. I kind of come down. But what I do is I'll come up and I'll just kind of meet that line. And then I come down and I join my stroke there off to the left. Now you'll notice that this vertex sits a little offset from the base of that Y. Here is our center axis. Ooh, hold on. Here's our center axis, and our vertex here is off to the right. That's okay. This is a really beautiful Y. It's got a lot of contrast here. This stroke and this stroke is very thick compared to this stroke. But you can vary the contrast in those sans serif styles. And you want to make sure that these serifs are pretty equal widths. With this serif style, you can really. I'm gonna make like a less contrasty serif letter form, just so you can kind of get a feel for that. I definitely encourage you to just practice, draw lots of Ys in varying widths and varying styles. You also may want to, really vary the type of serif you use. So, in past classes we were drawing with these big slab serifs, which are just kind of fun, You can draw this nice sort of like Groucho Marx serifs. And I just kind of start drawing that thickness, as if I'm like drawing in like a coloring book or something. So yeah, you can really play around with these serifs. They can be, you know, these nice transitional serifs. They can be these big chunky slab serifs. They can be these, you know, beautiful hairline modern serifs. You can do more of like a circusy kind of serif. All kinds of serifs. We go into more detail in our little booklet that we have available on our online store if you want to read more about serifs, or you can like Google like serifs and probably learn a lot about it that way too. Or if you just like next time you read a book or look at a magazine, you know, just try to like be aware of what people are doing with those serifs. It can be really unique, but also like, you know, very legible. And unless you're really looking for it, you may not. You may be really surprised by being like, huh, I never realized that serifs kind of look like that. You know, you read a word and you're like, yeah, that's totally a word, but then you're like, oh yeah, those serifs look totally different from those other kinds of serifs. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about typography and fonts and letters and lettering, is you can just kind of, you know, just by switching up the shape of a serif and switching up the sort of contrast of a letter, it just subtly changes the tone of voice when you're reading something. And it's this like real subliminal effect that you have on your reader and on your viewer, that you have that sort of power to, you know, persuade the voice in that person's head in the way that they're reading that text. So, you know, definitely have fun with your serifs and your contrast and your different styles, because that really has this sort of silent impact on the way that your work is perceived. That's the power of letters. But let's shoot down to a lowercase y, which is going to be similar to the construction of these bad boys right here. Or no, more like, you know, more like these, but with some contrast. Anyway, I'm just going to do it so you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to start as if we were doing our lowercase v. We're going to come down, and we're not going to come all the way down to the bottom there to the baseline. We're just going to kind of stay there, and we're going to jump down. Why am I behind my, hold on a second. I'm on the wrong layer here. Okay, let's get back. Okay, back to the layer. So we're going to start with our serif. Hit the baseline on that left-hand side. Not going to reach the baseline on that right-hand side. Left side, right side. Okay, got it. Okay, Harley. And then we're going to start with our serif here. We're going to kind of peel back, come down. We're going to meet those lines. Here we're going to give ourselves a little teardrop terminal. You knew that was coming, all you cool cats and kittens. Love that teardrop terminal. I'm going to kind of come back over here, and I'm going to fill in this serifs so that that bracket is a little more fluid and tapered and sort of attached there. That is a nice little lowercase y. A little wobbly in that stroke there, but you know. We can experiment by making a less contrast.
And nicer looking ones are a little bit more, but I feel like I don't want to sell some of those.
Now with the serif, with the terminal at the bottom here, you wouldn't really do like a, you know, like a serif like this or anything. So let me show you guys. So if you're doing a lowercase y, I highly recommend the teardrop terminal, or a terminal that is similar to something like this, like it just kind of ends on a very sort of sharp note. Because let me show you what happens if you try doing like a serif. It just looks a little bit silly. I don't see a lot of typefaces or fonts that use this approach, but if that is something that you enjoy doing, you are more than welcome to. But just know that that's typically not usually the thing that those lowercase y's use. They usually do like a teardrop terminal, or like I said before, this kind of blunt end. So you could do something that looks like, let me use my finger. So you could do something like this. That looks better, that looks good. So let's do some script letters. Now that we have a firm grasp on our construction and sort of rules of these pieces that make up the letter Y, I'm going to go over here in my layers palette and I'm going to turn on my script lines. And we have these sheets available on our online store as well, download for free. You can download them and print out as many as you like. The difference between these script lines and the lines that we were using before, obviously, are these little gray lines that you see that have appeared. Before we were using this very vertical axis, and now our axis has shifted to be a more diagonal one. And you can make your own practice sheets at home if you like. And the way that I would encourage you to do that is maybe do some do some script lettering, and then take your word, and then maybe just lay some lines down over it and say to yourself, okay, so this is a pretty common angle that I feel like I'm using a lot, and maybe you make your own angle depending on the sort of natural angle that you tend to make in your work. By no means are these like the end-all angle that you should be using. They just happen to be a popular angle that I use in my work. But again, you may find yourself needing a more harsh angle, or a more sort of the vertical angle. That is up to you. Up to you. All right, so let's draw some Y's. Now, I sort of gave you a little peek here into the sort of, general body of that uppercase Y. So I'll kind of go into more detail with it down here. We are going to be using the cap line, the base line, and the descender line, the descent line today. What I usually like to do is start with a little flourishy arm here to the left. And you'll notice I did this little sort of divot at the top, kind of shaved it off to make a nice little plateau. And basically what I'm using that for is I'm kind of giving myself the space to draw that stroke. So in my mind I'm saying, okay, this is the space where that thickness is going to be. That's where that thickness is going to live. So we are going to come down here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I need to see that baseline here. All right. So we're going to come down. Okay, sorry, I'm going to back up. So this is my initial stroke, right? Almost like I'm drawing a letter I. I've picked my pen up, and I'm going to come back here. I'm going to give myself that. Thickness. I'm going to kind of round up, and I'm going to come back up to the cap line, give myself that thickness again, and then shoot down to be sort of consistent with that thickness, and give myself a nice little tail there. And again, I'm going to sort of poke out that stroke to be continuing down and tapering down through the descender there of the Y. And of course you have that nice little tail that you can really draw out and do lots of things with. You have a Y, so you have this beginning point and this end point, and if you've been watching the show, you know that you can do things with this and you can do things with that. Those are the two sort of common points to really play with and be more decorative and ornamental about. But again, you want to be careful what you what sort of airspace you're flying in over there. You don't want to interrupt anything else that may happen in that layout. You want it to definitely, you want to use it to your advantage to add interest and decoration, but you don't want it to become a hindrance when you get to that space in your layout and you say to yourself, oh shoot, I was going to put something here, but now I have this, flourishy terminal thing here. So this is a very modest terminal, but we can do another one and make it a little bit more decorative. So I'm going to start again. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to make my bowl a little bit wider here this time. This is a little bit narrow, I feel like, but I'm going to come down and just kind of let my hand just sort of flow in this sort of ornamental shape. After we get through Z, we are going to do a class dedicated to these flourishes and ornaments, so stay tuned. And again, we are going to be skipping the weekend. So today's Friday. We're going to take Saturday and Sunday off. We will be back on Monday with the letter Z. So that would be Tuesday with the flourishes. Now, another thing I want to point out is this axis we have sitting in the middle of our Y. And you'll see that I've tapered this, and it's kind of getting a little bit heavy in this zone. You want to give yourself that center balance, and you really want to be aware that your thickness doesn't sort of cross over into that sort of halfway mark of your axis. You can use your axis as kind of like that, like don't go beyond this point with any thickness. It needs to be thick on this side and thick on this side, but not on that center axis. So think about your axis in that regard as the sort of borderline to thickness. Now with that uppercase Y, you can use this tail and give yourself a nice little baseline and draw out your word, sort of like something like this. So you have your Y. Ooh, it got a little wonky there. And this looked a little bit thicker than that other side. Oh my gosh, I'm really doing a number on this demonstration. I was trying to do it real fast and then it just kind of got sloppy. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to thicken that up over here, and almost, we're gonna disable these lines. I feel like this is like a little bit too close there. That's a little funny to me. Let me try drawing that over again. I feel like this. So let me show you why I don't like this. I just feel like there's a little bit too much tension right here. You want those lines to sort of feel like they're sort of swirling around like those ribbon twirlers in the Olympics, just kind of like free and, flourishy, but you don't, I just feel like there's a little bit too much tension in that space between those lines, so that's why I'm going to redraw this. I feel like that is a little bit better. This is almost creating a shape here with those flourishes. Again, I want my thickness to be sort of relative to that cap thickness. So that would be an example of using, it's actually not a really great example because you can't really tell. This, I'm trying to create a baseline that sort of flows up a little bit, but that didn't really happen with this one. But we did get a nice little exercise about tension, so there's that. I'm going to turn my lines back on. And we're going to work on some lowercase y's. We'll get back to trying to create a baseline with that tail again. I think we're going to have some time at the end to be able to do that. So let's move on to our lowercase y so we can do some more demonstrations. So, oh, it's because Gio was watching cartoons on my phone.
Did we lose you guys? Are you there? Shoot. Anyone there? Hi, did we lose you guys? It looks like it's still working. Ravon's there. Hi, Ravon. Is anybody? You're back. Oh, shoot. How long did that happen, you guys? Arlie's cell phone was like low. Oh, shoot.
No.
Glad you're back. I don't know how. It was not for long.
Okay. Oops.
Oh, it was not for a bit, but you're back now. When did it get cut off? Does anybody lowercase y in script, you guys? Stopped right before lowercase y.
All right. Here, can you plug that in? I will
Sorry.
go back and we'll do that again. I'm so sorry.
Since beginning of lowercase, just a couple minutes.
Oh boy. Whoops.
Gotta have power. We got. It said there was like 10% power left, and it paused.
Oh man.
Sorry,
our,
everyone.
Our 3-year-old was awake from 5 to 6, or from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock this morning, and was like, "I need to watch TV." So of course I just gave him my phone because we had 2 other babies. We had to.
Try to keep sleeping.
Oh man. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. So let's do some lowercase y's again. Here's what you missed. But we will go back and we'll start that again. Okay. So, for our lowercase y's, we are going to start from the baseline as if this letter was in the middle of a word. We're going to kind of come up. We're going to shoot across. We're going to give ourselves that little plateau here. We're going to come down almost like we were drawing a lowercase I. So we draw this right-hand stroke, and then we pick up our pen, come back up here and join it. Go back again. We give ourselves that little plateau again at the top, and that's basically just the weight, the thickness of that weight that you want to sort of scheme out. And we're going down to our descent line and giving ourselves a little tail there. This is a little bit sloppy, I feel like, but that's the general idea. Now, if you have a y, a lowercase y, that exists in the middle of a word, and you don't want this, if you don't want this stroke to be just stopping here, if you want it to sort of come up and connect, I'll show you how we do that. So we will start again from the baseline, coming up, give ourselves that little stroke, come down and meet it. Now, if let's say we are going to be connecting to a letter L, I don't know if there's many YL combinations.
Benadryl.
Benadryl, there you go.
Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, I think so. So you'll notice that this connection point.
All of my
Yeah,
suggestions are pharmaceuticals.
Oh man, yeah. Somebody's had quite a medical year, as you can tell. So your connection point is going to be a little bit high, almost like if you were doing a Y and let's do a YA. I feel like that is also. So your connection point is relatively high because that point that the other letter starts is pretty high up. Let's fill these in so you guys can get a better idea of what's going on here. Now, if you had a word that has a lower connection point, like a letter that had a lower connection point, like a lowercase e, you would do something like this. You're always kind of scheming that next move. Where is that point going to be? You want it to be nice and low, because what you're doing then is you're going to jump out and you're going to complete that letter like that. So you notice that this is a little bit lower here, this is a little bit higher and more of a severe angle. So you always want to be thinking about what's coming next, because that's going to help shape the letter that you're drawing now. And similarly, if you had, if you didn't have, like this combination would work if you had an E coming like after it, right? So you have this E right here, I, but let's say you have an O coming before it. Instead of this line coming from beneath, you're starting at this like higher mark. The idea is the same, where you're kind of coming down from that plateau, coming back up, meeting it, and completing that letter form like that. Okay, before I lost you guys, I was asking if there was a suggestion for any layout suggestion, or if you guys wanted to do any word together, if anybody had any suggestions. Hey Morgan, I'm sorry, can you come back? So if you guys have any comments that you would like, if there's any word that you would like to see drawn, or if there's a layout that you guys would like to do together, just type it out in the comments and we can try to do that. Or if you have any questions, let me know. Now's a good time to do that. I don't know if you guys caught the comment that I was making maybe right before it cut out, but we are doing the Y today, but we are going to take, so today's Friday, we're going to take Saturday and Sunday off, and we're going to jump back into Z on Monday, and we're also going to be doing some more flourishes next week. But just so you know, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, there will be no hand lettering class, but we will be back on Monday with the letter Z.
Tomorrow is Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. Has anybody made a comment about
Nobody has any requests. Anybody
Okay.
have like a nice little ditty that they would like to letter that has the words letters U in it?
We are doing Y today.
Oh, that's right. Well, U is like a Y. We didn't really sleep at all last night, you guys. Sorry for the incoherent babbling.
What about something with yeast? Since we were talking about
bread.
Sweet Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Yeast. No. Morgan made the cringe face.
Everyone's baking bread right now. Anybody?
Yeah. Oops. Yes, I was listening to Salt and Pepper. Where did that go?
Mercy will overcome this from a song.
Mercy will. Can we do something that has a capital Y in it and a lowercase y? Sorry, I should have been.
So high maintenance.
I know. Mercy
You
will
didn't.
overcome us.
This.
Let's try to think. Let's see. What else has a. What? Let's just write.
Enthusiasm is the yeast that makes your hope rise to the stars. Now, I'm looking up yeast quotes. We should have planned ahead. Enthusiasm is the yeast that raises the dough.
That's really long. We don't have that much time. We have like 3 minutes. I'm just gonna go yes to yeast, just so that we can draw some. No. Yeast. I want a lowercase y. Yeast makes me happy. How's that? All right. So now what we're gonna try to do is make a little bit of a undulating baseline. So.
Yesterday, someone says a capital Y. You could have done.
Oh, yeah. We'll fill this in. So you notice that I use that tail of the Y, of the uppercase Y, to make a little undulating baseline. It kind of rises up to the right. Thank you, Morgan. Sorry about that.
That's okay. You got it.
And I know this phrase is kind of ridiculous, but I wanted something that just has an uppercase Y and a lowercase y in it. Not too long because we don't have a ton of time left. I apologize. I'm so sorry we ran out of batteries, man. What a rookie mistake. Rookie mistake. That's like the kind of mistake you do on the letter like H or something, or the letter K, not Y. I should know better by now. Yeast. And then I'm gonna kind of use this also as a sort of cap line to sort of undulate against. I'm going to use a little bit of a contrasty sans serif. So you see like these strokes are a little bit thicker than these strokes. And I'm really trying to follow this line here. It's a little bit tricky. I feel like sometimes it's easier to really have a very visual baseline to be working against. This I feel like was really easy to maintain, a pretty even amount of space. But sometimes it's a little bit harder to be visualizing the space between the top of your letters. But what I have here, I'm kind of looking at this, and I have this really nice swirling baseline here, but I know that, you know, I'm gonna have a capital H that also has this crossbar. I'm wondering if there's a way that I can draw that out. So, you know, I'm just kind of like planning as I go, and I'm like, maybe that would be something kind of cool. I wonder, so, you know, maybe we can do something like that. And I am going to have a lowercase y, so I want to make sure that this doesn't interfere with the beautiful y that we're going to have at the end. So let's try doing that. Yeast makes me trying to maintain that same angle also of our axis. Our two crossbars of our H. And you know what I'm actually going to do? I'm actually going to leave that off until the end, because I want to see how this I want to see how this kind of plans out. I was going to try to connect my P's, but I feel like there's already so much going on. I'm not going to do that. All right, here we have our Y. See, I want that angle to be sort of consistent with this other line that we have here. Fill these in, fill these in. And now I have this Y. I kind of just like the way that, you know, I sort of created that crossbar up here that I was going to do with my H. So maybe what I'll do is just end up rounding that out. And so it's probably a good thing that I didn't draw out that crossbar first, because I, you know, as much as I was trying to really look ahead and try to plan what this composition was going to look like, I did have this instance where this Y kind of just became a really beautiful little, you know, occasion in this layout. And I was like, you know what? I want to kind of just highlight that. Since it is the letter of the day, let's make that kind of the all-star. Why not? And this also deserves a little bit of a exclamation point. Oh my, what happened there? Okay, I'll try that again. Oh, hello. What is going on here? I don't know if you guys can see that on the screen, but my iPad's kind of freaking out. I think it knows it's time to be done. Yeast makes me happy, and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just give myself a little echoing thing here. Nice. Okay, so that is it for today. Our Y is the letter of the day. We'll be back again on Monday. Today's Friday, so we're taking the weekend off. If you guys love our classes, there is our Venmo information if you want to send us a couple of dollars because you feel like it's been worth it. But even if you don't have a couple of dollars, we do not require it. We love spending this time with you. This is a free class for you guys to enjoy and to keep our sort of senses sharp and refined. And just, you know, some good practice for me while I'm, you know, stuck at home in our dining room with our kids.
I cut my hair today.
It looks great.
Thanks.
If anybody wanted to know the true identity of Sia, now you know who it is. You should hear her sing. It's amazing.
That's not true.
All right, we will see you guys on Monday.
Rolly's taking a nap.
Roland's sleeping. Babies are sleeping. Kids are eating lunch. Ladyfingers are ladyfingering. Anyway, we'll see you guys on Monday.
Good to see you all. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. Bye. Yeet. Oh, we'll do yeet. We'll get back to yeet. I promise. We'll do that for you, Shannon. All right. We'll see you guys later.
Can you turn off?
Bye.